When you trust Ferguson Roof Systems to replace your roof, we go the extra mile to protect your home and property. On every job, we deploy durable netting to protect your home's exterior and landscaping. It's just one more reason why you should call Ferguson Roof Systems today.
All right, it is time once again to talk about the weather. So let's get on with it, shall we? Thanks for joining me. Give another minute here for everybody to get piled in. I'll load my own live on my phone so I can see some of your comments. Can glance down every now and then and go, what's happening? Thanks again for tuning in on all the multiple platforms that I have out there for you. So, of course, that includes Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. And as always, if you're having trouble not getting notified on like Facebook, for example, which like me, for example, I didn't even get notified and I'm live. I'm like, hello, Facebook, I'm right here. You can click on this link and I will be able to give you your notification through your direct messenger that I'm live. So make sure you click that as an option if you're having some technical difficulties that can happen in cyberspace. Okay, let's see what else we got going on. Make sure all that's done. Looks like that looks good. Welcome you guys on YouTube, by the way, from checking in. I see Emmanuel from Tulsa. He's going, when's my snow coming? I get it. We're going to talk about that too. Guys on Twitter, welcome again as well. All right, so we've got a few more people piled in. So now let's get on with the show, shall we? You don't need me to tell you it's snowing. In some parts of the state, that is. Let's take a look outside here on the AT's weather cam. And let's see. That temperature is not correct. Why does that say 44? That is so not 44 degrees. Let me see if I can. There, I pressed the magic button and it changed. There we go. 32.9. So, woof. It's cold. And you're wondering, can it snow when it's above freezing, technically? And the answer is yes. So I'm just about under 33 degrees. So it's a nice, heavy, wet snow. Big flakes that came down. My goodness, these are like silver dollar size. They were huge flakes out there. I love it. When you get snow that big, it does pile up rather easily. If we didn't have so much of the warmer temperatures around, it wouldn't melt so fast. But again, it's going to eventually overcome some of that warmth and continue to kind of slowly stick. Let me see. Let me put this up on a bigger screen here for you. These are actual air temperatures here just off the ground. And so you can see there is 32 to about 33 degrees in a large area of central and western Oklahoma, and that is where the snow has been falling heavy. So it has dynamically cooled the atmosphere from earlier numbers, which were like these, into the upper 30s is how we kind of started the day in this region of the state. So you can see how that snow has worked its way down the column of the atmosphere and has cooled us down to close to the freezing point in some instances, and that is allowing the snow to continue. So that means that our snow line continues to edge, something like this, right about where you see 36, 35 degrees. It's kind of in the transition zone, something like that. So that means you guys, no snow yet, but just getting close, and everything on here has been snow here for the first part of our day. And let's see what else we can look at. I want to go to the dew point and humidity value, and we will show you the magic wet bulb temperature. And this is where the temperature and the dew point meet once the air is saturated. So you can see here, let's see, yeah. We still have a little bit to go to get that saturation out here. We're still into the mid to upper 30s. It's going to be dynamically cool, which won't happen until later this afternoon. And of course, southern, southeast Oklahoma is still fairly warm. And you're not going to get a whole lot of snow down here as a result of that. Too little too late, I'm afraid, for some of these areas, especially way down here toward McCurtain County. But needless to say, you can see where it does snow. The wet bulb does drop down where we need it to be, which is really anything under 35. 34, 33 is better for the sweet spot. Okay, so we have had an increase in coverage for the winter storm warning. It's in the pink shaded. I talked about this last night, how the Weather Service would expand it once they saw the data. They waited till the morning to do it, but they did do it. That extends out to the west and up to the north and east, so that means there could be some trouble spots along the highways at times where it does come down quite heavy. Otherwise, the ground conditions typically kind of overcome some of that and kind of melt things away just a hair. If we take a look at the big picture, here is a look at the jet stream in the version of the water vapor channel of the satellite view loop here. And I'll put our little low, let's see, right here. So this is the center of the upper level low. Actually, did I misdraw that? Yeah, I did. It's down here. Ignore that first L. L for drawing the wrong L. So this is our area of interest here as far as the storm system goes. And out ahead of it is the enhancement that you see in the cloud tops for some thunderstorm activity down into this region, some severe weather down here across the coastline. And then for us, we get to blow off what's going to turn into a big snow event for us. Okay, here's a look again at the jet stream pattern, which shows you that color of energy represents the lift in the atmosphere coming right overhead, and the track has not changed. It has stayed the same for the last 2 days of model data, and that is good for us. Timing-wise, we look at the best lift in the atmosphere. We'll start you off here at, let's go to lunchtime. So you can see a lot of lift present across this is in the red area, across the southern half of the state, and then of course some in the northeast, and a lot going on in Texas. Now, there will be times where it kind of dies off a bit, like here's mid-afternoon, and then it revamps again toward the evening hours as the secondary push develops as some thermodynamics take place. Then that really bombs out here across the eastern half of the state during the mid-evening hours. We're getting your heaviest snow rates, maybe some thunder snow mixed in there at times, and that then shifts into Arkansas and Louisiana as we head into the midnight hour. Missouri as we head into the midnight hour. Then things start to quiet down here with just residual flurries overnight. All right, so the timing on this, well, obviously the rain and snow has already moved through western Oklahoma, so I'll start this at noon here. So you can see we're kind of where the snow line is in the model data. Let's take a quick look at that, though, in the actual radar data. Now, the radar will have trouble kind of converting over all this green color to blue and white in the algorithms. It sometimes has a little finicky issues with that in the transition. But as we talked about, the snow line has now progressed kind of in this zone here. And you can see some in these values. So, for example, like around Prague, it says here rain and snow mixture, snow and grapple coming down. Let's see here. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So Norman down here, you've got snow and grapple, so it's all snow down the south side of Oklahoma City in Norman area. It took a while, but they're Trivia and Mod. You're getting your snow mixed in now. This continues to expand eastward up the turnpike toward Bristow. You're about to start to get your mix changeover. Let's see, I'll look at this little radar view too. This one did a little bit better job at trying to paint in the area of snow, but also the mixture of rain and snow. So you can see how eastern Oklahoma still has a little bit more to go before they get covered. So let's take a look at the data. Here's noontime, 1 o'clock. There's Tulsa now getting your snow by 2 o'clock. On down toward McAllister, you're just now starting to kind of get changed over, but your better snow comes in around 3. Heavy snow at that here for southeast Oklahoma. You can tell by these darker blue shadings, which is pretty much along the I-40 corridor, I-44. So if we do something like this, you know, the heaviest snow is going to be kind of on the northern fringe of this line, down across southern and eastern Oklahoma, which has been that way in the forecast for the last couple of days. That really hasn't changed. You do get some bursts up behind that on occasion, but by far and large, just the snow is just cranking out down there. Here's 8 o'clock in the evening. Still got the snow. We finally cooled down most of southeast Oklahoma. The exception there is the tip of the state by 9 o'clock. 10 o'clock, you might even get some wet snow mixed in there briefly by 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock in southeast Oklahoma, but it won't stick probably because it's just too warm and just didn't get enough to overcome it. Let me back up a bit. Did Dallas get some on this latest data? It did. It's actually kept you guys on the southern fringe of a little bit of light snow mixed in. That's good. Last night's data, some of it had tendency to kind of push the whole system north just a hair, which was going to bring you out of it. So it looks like you'll still get some wet flakes mixed in, but again, it should melt. And here's midnight tonight. Snow across central, northern, eastern Oklahoma on into the 2, 3, 4 o'clock hour. The heavy stuff is out of here. We have some lingering flurries in the morning hours. You're heading on out to work tomorrow morning. Road-wise, again, we think we should be pretty good. It looks like temperatures are still going to hold just above freezing for the most part in central and eastern Oklahoma. Western Oklahoma may be a little more slippery, though. Here's a look at the amount of QPF, or in other words, the rainfall if it were to occur. We're still looking at about close to an inch here along the I-44 corridor, points down south and east. Again, that means on a snow ratio, if you just did 10 to 1, that would be 9 inches of snow, 12 inches of snow, but we're not doing a 10 to 1 today. We're probably more like an 8, might even be less than that on the snow ratio. So we got to take a few inches off the liquid QPF version. Okay, temperatures this morning. The model data this afternoon is still struggling at what to do with the numbers. So here at noontime and 1 o'clock, it's got us into the lower 30s, and it's already 2 degrees too warm, right? or at least, well, it's hard to say if this is a 34.1 or if this is a 34.8. I'm not sure how this is going to do the numbers on here, but at least looking at 1 to 2 degrees too warm, the model data. So that means you can still shave a couple degrees off this Oklahoma City temperature of 35 by 3 o'clock, so maybe more like 33 to 34 at most, which still means we got snow. So it's not going to transition back over to rain regardless of what those temperatures do. But you can see where that's staying on the cool side under the 35 degree cutoff threshold for the body of the state through the evening, and then overnight tonight you do see some of blue sneaking in there. This is temperatures right about 32 or 31 degrees. Maybe even 30 out there in western Oklahoma. So it could be some slippery spots and any liquid that's still on the roadways, especially bridges and overpasses. Oklahoma City, it's a tough call. East side probably 33 degrees, west side probably 32 by 7 o'clock in the morning, and then we'll start to warm up pretty quickly. So it might just be just a brief period. We have to watch the roadways, especially bridges and overpasses. I think the rest of the road still will have residual heat overnight because we don't really have any Arctic air to combat that. So that's why I think this is kind of the best system you'd want to get as far as snow goes. Snowfall amounts in the model data, I'm just disappointed because they all decided to cut their numbers by half. It's like, where have you guys been? You've been going nuts for the last few days, and all of a sudden the day up, oh, we're just kidding. It's not going to be anywhere near a foot of snow like some of us were telling you. It's going to be more like 3 to 4 inches or maybe 5. So if I go through the suite here, there's American, there's the Her, which does okay in some areas. It does really dumb in others. NAM, there's a high resolution version of that one. If we go to the big picture here, several models here, just kind of give you the idea. The heavy stuff is still, has always been in the picture, is the take home on these images: southwest and southern Missouri, northwestern Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, and then parts of southern Oklahoma. As I just kind of go through each model plot, you can see how northern and northwest Oklahoma, in general terms, is a lot less than others. When you look at the model suite. Now, the SREF model, which I like for snowfall forecasting events, still keeps the bulk of the heavy stuff right along the I-44 corridor into southwest Missouri, and then kind of back into 40 and a little south of that, like toward McAllister, and then back here just probably the north side of Ardmore, and then down toward Wichita Falls. So that's the sweet spot where you're going to have 6+ inches of snow on the ground. Yeah, you could get 8. Somebody might get crazy 9, but you're going to have to measure at the perfect time because we'll be losing a lot of this for melting overall. For example, will you get 9 inches of snow? No. In Oklahoma City? Again, I don't think so. The most I had seen in my forecast was 6 to 8, and that wasn't a perfect outcome. If we do take in some measuring into account, and we call it the snow depth and some other issues, this model really cuts it back to 4 to 5 inches here across a large area that I kind of outlined. It does keep it higher, though, in the Ozarks and in southwest Missouri. But I still think we're looking at 4 to 6 widespread, and I still think we're looking at 6 to 8 in pockets, and that does include the Oklahoma City metro. So that forecast hasn't changed. And, of course, we started the day with some snow, so that's a good sign. The European backed off its mean. It's 3 to 6. Here's 8. So the European is more in line with some of these areas that they'll get, but kind of misses the boat in others. Models just have a really tough time at snow. As we said, the model blend, this was the worst case scenario. In other words, the very minimum amount of snow you're guaranteed, and it's still widespread 2 to 4 inches of snow across the state. So that's what I was saying. It was a good call for a snowstorm for our region. Again, the SRF is an outlier as far as how much snow it can be. I won't even get into that. Here is a look at the breakdown. I showed you this before. Where you see the blue on the map, that's where you have the really heavy 2 to 3 inch per hour snowfall rates, so that you can quickly add up to snowfall totals like that 9 inches when you have something like this sitting on top of you for a few hours, right? So that's how you can get some really high amounts in a very small, narrow tract down there across southeast Oklahoma on into western Arkansas. This goes through the evening hours. There's that secondary wave coming out of Texas, so there's Dallas-Fort Worth getting a little bit of the snow action up northward, up I-35. So remember, see how it just kind of grazes Oklahoma City? So it's kind of like the southeast side of town versus the northwest side of town. Gets more snow on this final round that comes in the evening hours. Then, of course, the whole thing lifts out overnight like we talked about before. And even this model was going a little nuts overall with the snowfall amounts. But it's probably the closest to reality when you subtract for melting. So this green area is widespread 6 to 8, and that does include the metro. and on into northwest Arkansas. There's almost a foot of snow there in those areas. So this would be the upper limit of what's possible out there for the remainder of today and tonight. It's just, can we measure it, right? And it's just the issue is with the melting from the ground temperatures. All right, so Weather Service went really conservative with this event, and they kept nudging each time. And they added this 6 to 8 out here to the west. But you're going to have this 6 to 8 all across pockets from South Oklahoma City. Again, there's a sweet spot down there we already outlined. Same thing for Tulsa. And they did kind of hint at that with these little sweet spots of 6 to 8 kind of peppered in throughout for their best guess on the forecast. All right, last thing we'll leave you with is the overall upper level jet stream pattern, which shows a huge change coming our way. I've been talking this for the last several days as well. So as the jet stream wraps around, comes up over top of the ridge, back down into the long wave trough, and then back out to the east. This is what we call a cross-polar flow, meaning that this ridge has crossed over the North Pole and tapped into this secondary ridge here, and that's a cross-polar flow, which means some seriously cold air usually spills out of this and comes down the pike into Canada. And yes, some of that does make its way here into the U.S. So time will tell how cold it will be, but the Canadian has been giving some signs as to what's coming our way. So, for example, on the end of the month, it's got us into the teens, and then for February, there's some single digits sneaking in there at times. Even below numbers, or below zero numbers have come in at times in the data, and it's going to be that way for a while. And the models are all over the place with the numbers on the extended because they really don't know what to do with it. But I can also warn you here at the end of the month toward early February. Let me see when the data actually starts. It would be on the 30th, right? Yeah, so from the 30th, all right, so the evening of the 30th, Monday, next Monday, into Tuesday morning. You see what this is showing up here on the map? This is ice. So this is light freezing rain, light freezing drizzle with an Arctic air mass that does come in, and it does pile up a little bit over the course of those couple of days. So again, this is a model blend right now, but the key element is we might be dealing with some significant icing here. Is either going to cause enough for our roadways to be shut down, and if it's heavy enough, some possible power issues. So keep that in mind at the end of the month in early February, and we'll figure all that out later on. And that's why I've been warning you these extended outlook numbers in this region are subject to change because the models are clueless on what's happening with the pattern. But at least we'll know we'll warm up. We've already had our high today. It isn't going to be 42 anymore. But we've already had our high. We'll be in the 30s for the rest of today and tonight. Then tomorrow we should be getting into the lower 40s at least. Then over the weekend for Friday and Saturday. So any snow that's out there will melt pretty quickly by the time we head to Friday and Saturday, whatever's left of it out there. And then we will rinse and repeat and see what happens next week. I can tell you that when you're talking about Arctic air, you end up talking a lot more about ice than you do with snow. When you're talking about continental polar air, which is a Pacific air mass or something that's been over the continent like Alaska or Canada to work with, where the dew points are a lot higher, it contains more moisture content, you got a lot better snow out of that. By the way, Kristen on Facebook, thank you for the stars. I see you. Ginger as well, thank you for the stars this afternoon. Lena also in the house for some stars, thank you. And Shannon, you also sent some stars today, appreciate it. Jody's like, yeah, no one wants the ice, only the snow. But hey, that's the way it goes sometimes. All right, so look, that's it. That's the latest with the weather. So there's not really anything new that we discussed last night or the last couple of days. It's just enjoy what's out there and be safe. Oh, I will tell you one other thing. I didn't do this a minute ago, but this is important. I post this on my Facebook wall and Twitter, etc. But this is the multi-state road conditions. You go to my website, aarontuttleweather.com, go to the weather data tab, click down here where it says multi-state road conditions on your phone or on your computer, and you scroll down here and you see the Oklahoma road map. And you can click on all these cameras all across the state to find out if there's travel trouble spots. So for example, I'll just click on this one out here in western Oklahoma, and it shows here that, hey, there's some snow on the grass, and on the roadway it's mostly just wet. It's not white. It's not covered in snow. Southwest Oklahoma, same thing down there. And you can click on any of these to kind of get pictures that you need to go wherever you're going to travel, and that will give you the heads up. You can also do that here locally in Oklahoma City or Tulsa. You can click on any of these traffic cams. Like this one shows everything's wet, but it is snowing on this view. Again, you can span this map out, do it all over the place. If you're not in Oklahoma, or maybe you're traveling to Kansas, I got Kansas on there for you. I also have Missouri on there for you. I've got Colorado and Texas, and also into Arkansas. So again, this is a very popular page on my website, aarontuttle.com, and you can check out your road conditions on the fly as you need to. Weather Service does keep us in this orange shading. Look at that. They put a little red for Oklahoma City, which is a major impact category, which means dangerous driving conditions are possible if the snow comes down heavy enough to overcome the wet roadways. So keep that in mind. That's kind of what that category means. Otherwise, you can see that orange for just potential moderate impacts across the body of Oklahoma, and then east of us toward Arkansas, Missouri, and out there, of course, in the Texas Panhandle and northwestern Texas, but not in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You guys are fine. Don't expect anything like that down there. Phew! That was a lot to cram in on lunch break. I don't know about you. I'm exhausted. But anyway, so thanks for checking in. Make sure you like and share this video. Tell your friends and family about AT's weather. Like I said, sometimes Facebook doesn't notify everybody. I've told you at least one way you can kind of get rid of that issue. But even I've done it, and I still didn't get notified. So this goes to show you that even then, sometimes Facebook just does its own thing, which is irritating. But the rest of the platforms, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter, all does fairly well at the notification system. So you can always double dip. You can double dip the chip. You have my permission. You like both platforms, all platforms, whatever you need to do to make sure you don't miss out on your dose of AT. I say that in the third person, which just sounds really weird. But that way you get the weather that you need, because all of those platforms will also notify you. And they don't play games, as far as I know. I haven't seen any game playing yet out of those platforms yet. But anyway, you guys, thanks again for chiming in on YouTube as well. Nancy, good to see you. And I know Jim is usually always in the house for Mustang. Yep, he's checking in. He's got 32 degrees on the east side. He didn't have any snow at the beginning of the morning, but then he chimed in with an update and said, yo, we finally got it. And it's going to be snow for the rest of the day. And if you haven't got it yet out in eastern Oklahoma, don't worry. Your changeover is still on its way. It's just a couple hours away, and then you'll start to get some of that white stuff coming from the sky. And once it starts, it shouldn't stop. You shouldn't go back to rain. You should stay snow at this point in time. Okay, that's it. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. We'll talk again soon. Probably I'll do another live update this evening, and we'll see how that last round does and see what's happened for the day. You can always go to my wall on Facebook and check out any of my latest posts, which has more additional information, which is helpful for you. And we'll, again, see you a little bit later. Thanks, guys.